of tomorrow's hearing. The committee has been informed that Mr Joe O'Malley will attend the hearings along with Ryan Tubridy and Noel Kelly to provide them with advice where needed. Solicitors are also due to attend the media committee, whose chairperson Niamh Smith told the Hard Shoulder here on News Talk she hopes there can still be a robust discussion.
So we have to remember that ultimately Ryan Tubridy or Noel Kelly don't have to come before the committee. They're coming voluntary. I'm sure they've had their legal teams engaged from the very start and get-go of this crisis that has unfolded in their relationship with RTÉ.
The young person who was allegedly paid by a BBC presenter for explicit photos has called the claims rubbish. The person's lawyer contacted the BBC saying nothing inappropriate or unlawful took place. The unnamed presenter has been suspended while police say they're assessing information. Sky News home editor Jason Farrell tells us what could happen next.
It may be that person will feel that they don't need to come out. On the other hand, it may be the perfect time to come out and say, look, I've had this hanging over me. Now can we put all this behind us?
July 12th should be a public holiday in the Republic, according to one government TD. The annual holiday in the north is celebrated by the Unionist community to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne. Green Party TD Patrick Costello insists not all aspects of the commemorations should be adopted south of the border.
I would not want to see the bonfires that we are seeing at the minute. I think the sectarian hate that goes with the bonfires, the burning of effigies, the abusive, offensive language on these bonfires, I don't want to bring that with us.
And that's your news. It's 7:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Cheer on the boys in green beating Scotland with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Paris in September.
Tomorrow we'll see a fairly dull start with scattered showers continuing. In the afternoon, the showers will become confined mainly to Leinster with some heavy downpours possible. Most areas will gradually brighten through the day with decent sunny spells later in the afternoon and evening, although further outbreaks of rain may push into western fringes by nightfall. Highest temperatures of 17 to 21 degrees in light to moderate northwesterly breezes. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome to Mondays Off the Ball. It has been an incredible weekend for sport. Just to pack in what we have had over the course of the last 2 days: 2 All-Ireland hurling semi-finals, 2 All-Ireland camogie quarter-finals, the Under-20 rugby semi-finals, the Rugby Championship, Wimbledon, the 3rd Ashes Test, the Tour de France, the British Grand Prix, and a partridge in a pear tree. It has been quite the weekend, and we'll try and distill all of that into the next 3 hours. Now, former Kilkenny goalkeeper David Herity is going to join us after 8 o'clock to look back on the All-Ireland hurling semi-finals. Ireland have reached a Rugby World Cup final 4 months earlier than expected. This is the aperitif, the amuse-bouche to what's to come in France, and we'll discuss the Under-20s exploits in what have been exceptional circumstances down in South Africa. Rory O'Connor is going to be on with us just after 7:30. Plus, we get stock cricket. England are back in the Ashes hunt after a remarkable weekend's play at Headingley, which all culminated yesterday afternoon. Melinda Farrell will be talking baseball and all of its ramifications a little bit later on in the show. If you want to get in contact, you can do 53106 for 30 cents. You can tweet us at Off the Ball. My name is, of course, Richie McCormack, as John Malloy prepares his testimony for the Public Accounts Tribunal tomorrow. He'd love that.
I don't know about that now. I don't know if anyone would love that, so we'll find out tomorrow what kind of
that'll be some show. Mick McCarthy, welcome along.
Highest ever ratings for a Rocktas TV, I would imagine.
It's going to crash, isn't it? That's what's going to happen. Because I think, was it the first weekend, there was like the first week of the hearings, that there was some kind of issue with the streams, so such will be the
I would imagine RTÉ will show this tomorrow, will they?
I think I heard somewhere the Virgin Media are showing this tomorrow as well, so that'll show you the
you forgot about England winning the Euros and the Under-21s as well, and all the list of things.
Well, yes,
I didn't say we're going to talk about it.
Lee Carsley pricing himself out of the Ireland job.
Yeah.
Is what he did there.
There you go, yeah.
For those, like, that's essentially what's happened surely there. Like, I didn't intend to lead on this, obviously, but if Lee Carsley has won a trophy with the England Under-21s, any suggestion that he's just going to walk into the Ireland job out of previous loyalty, prior loyalty,
some sort of patriotism, don't think so.
He's got himself a big gig lined up, whatever. If it's the England job or if it's a club job, he's going to be walking into a bigger paycheck than the FAI could ever muster.
This whole Lee Carsley thing always seemed like a bit of a a weird sort of red herring anyway, didn't it? Like, I mean,
I think it was just because people have latched on to, and I saw him mentioned again today in pieces, that he's got a rolling 1-year contract, which I don't think would be unusual at that age grade.
No, I feel like we always have the person in our head who should be the manager over the person who isn't, and it was Stephen Kenny last time, and then it was Chris Hughton before that, and it was so on and so forth. There's always the person. So if Lee Carsley goes and is a Premier League manager this time next year, we'll just have someone else.
Terry Venables was disqualified under the Companies Act to make.
You've already got your glasses on. It doesn't work for that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I should need to pick them out of my jacket. But yeah, that's a side note. But the Carsley thing, I would never have seen it happening. I certainly don't after yesterday, because he's going to get himself a gig that the FAI could never afford. You're both here as in mourning, I guess, over the weekend. We've got our Galway representative, we've got our Clare representative, we have David Herity on later on in slightly more triumphalism bent, but you were on the other side of the glass as we recorded that a little bit earlier on. We'll get to it after 8. There were certain things that I touched upon that I could literally see you twitching.
Really, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Like, I don't think after nearly 10 years I can't read your body language, Michael. You were ready to come through the glass. I'd mentioned certain things.
I didn't enjoy.
There are elements you want to get off your chest.
Look, David's very, very fair, and I don't think he was coming from Kilkenny point of view at all. I did think the idea that Kilkenny played the whistle on the early advantage thing, and that Owen Murphy just would have saved the point blank shot from Mark Rogers. I thought that was a little bit fanciful, but look, do
you not think he was static when the ball is struck?
I don't think he's going to save a shot from there.
Whether he saves it or not is immaterial. Do you not think he's static because the whistle is
possibly
gone?
I just think that it was a disallowed goal. Now, I heard the whistle live in the stadium, and it did come as soon as Hugh Lawler touched the ball, but you have to play your 5 seconds. Like, come on, you know what I mean? It was the ball straight in, and it was just it was a mistake from the referee. It was no more than that, and I don't referee isn't the reason that Clare didn't win the game yesterday, but like, you're asking me, like, in terms of wincing, David's piece is the first thing I've listened to about the match. I would usually have rewatched the game, win or lose. At this stage, I would have listened to a couple of podcasts. Haven't listened to the hurling pod yet. They were on live last night at 8 o'clock. I would have usually listened to that by now, and I would have read 50 articles at least. I think I got halfway through one, and I'm just not able for it. There was a weird sense of, I don't want to be glib with words like depression, because it is only sport and it isn't like affecting your life, but it feels akin to it, you know what I mean? It was a strange, horrible walk back up. I was in the Cusack stand yesterday, so it was a long old walk back up to Drumcondra, and it didn't really. That's not unusual. It usually goes away by the Monday morning, and I have to say it's just grim. And I wonder, is that a mixture of a couple of things if you're a Clare fan? One is that, for all, you can't say Kilkenny didn't deserve the win, but in other ways it was there for the taking for Clare, and they didn't. And then you're also thinking, right, this is a team where Shane O'Donnell and Tony Kelly will both be 30 by the next All-Ireland final. That's not to say they can't be brilliant at 30. It's just that there's that you realise that that's on the. They have less years ahead of them than
you're
they
on
have
the downward slope there. Yeah,
less years ahead than they have behind them. John Conlon's going to be another year older. Other than that, it's not that old a team. Like, I mean, they've definitely. There's no reason they can't be back next year. But you're thinking, you don't have many chances not to take. And they did turn up yesterday, which they didn't do last year. So there's some positives there, but bloody hell, it's hard to take, because you're reliving every little decision, and that, I don't mean by referees, I mean a decision made in the game, and here and there, and you're thinking to yourself, like, little things, right? Rory Hayes came out of a ruck with the ball laid on that I don't think he realised he had so much time, and hit the ball out over the sideline for no reason. TJ puts that straight over the bar. Earlier on in the match, Tony Kelly, I don't think he's fouled, but at the same time he reacts in a way that the referee has no choice but to bring up the free. TJ points that from 100 yards. He wasn't going to point it from 115, so just there's 2 points off the top of my head straight away, so it's just little things like that just get to you the day after a game like that. Is
that the extent of Clare's abilities? Do you think there's not necessarily a ceiling, but that there is a sense that Kilkenny and Limerick, you look at the lineup of the last two All-Ireland finals, this one included, they are where they deserve to be. So by extension, does that mean the two beaten semi-finalists are where they deserve to be?
Well, we can talk about Galway in a minute, and we should, but from Clare's point of view, I think there's more left in the tank. I don't think you can argue that. Like, it's in again, I'm only saying, are they on a par with Limerick and Kilkenny? And they keep losing the matches, so there's a reason that they're not. But I don't know if that means they can't improve, because they're not very far off. What happened yesterday in a game that people are critical of the tactics in the first half, I'd be part of that. I absolutely would be critical. And you're critical of maybe a referee, and you're critical of decision making, and you're saying that Kilkenny were efficient and took all their chances. And yet, but for what I would say is the best block I've ever seen live in the stadium, and but for a referee not playing long enough advantage, and but for possibly the best save I've ever seen, live or not, Clare have 3 more goals in that game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's a very different game then. Like, so you can't be doing that much wrong. It can't be that their tactics are terrible and they're not good enough and they're not as good as Kilkenny, and be these literal 2 miracles away from 2 other goals in the game, you know? So who's to say that they can't improve or get a little bit better? But they just need a bit more nous in these situations, I think. I don't know. I feel like Limerick or Kilkenny know how to win the games and when there's a point in it, and maybe Clare don't at the moment.
Anne-Marie, your subject for this evening's improv class is Nicky Quaid's contact lens. You've got 10 minutes.
Well, I suppose it was clever. Do you know, like, it was game management and probably needed to be done. Like, Galway were in an advantage position in the game and Limerick needed to get things sorted out, and once they did, Galway had absolutely no answers, and I suppose that's a winning team for you. You know, I wouldn't begrudge them. Maybe it's not the nicest thing to see in sport, but you know, it happens. And like, it reminded me of, do you remember the Mayo Dublin semi-final in 2019 when Dublin absolutely tore them asunder in the second half, the first 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're just thinking to Mayo, just someone go down, just do a contact lens trick, just do something, just control the game here, just get a hold of it. And they didn't. And is that perhaps a sense of naivety? Limerick didn't fall to that on Saturday.
We recorded David earlier. What stood out, but they wanted to spoiler the whole thing, and like, long time in the business, etc. He said that there'd be designated people within each team whose job it would be to go down and maybe take a moment and slow down the play, or slow down, you know, momentum for whoever it might be. And I was like, they're designated. They literally pointed them out before the game. Like, maybe that is the case, maybe it's not, but this is something that's spoken about pre-game, that, you know, if this does happen, take the sting out somehow.
This was a bit more brazen than normal because it was a goalkeeper and he wasn't involved in the play, and then suddenly his contact lens is falling out. It's a little bit of a farce, but Jesus Christ, if you're getting angry with this, there isn't a sport in the world that this doesn't happen in. There isn't a team sport in the world where somebody doesn't go and try and change the momentum of play and calm it down, and it's the done thing. If it's your team, you're wondering why they're not doing it, as Anne-Marie points out with Mayo. Like, you know, that's where the real anger comes when you don't do it and it's your team, rather than, like, it's up to referees or whatever. I don't know what the
interpretation, because the thing about it, if it's, without wanting to lean on association football, as we're loath to do when we're talking about GAA, but there's equipment that goes into being a goalkeeper. Like, you'll see the change in jersey and change in gloves and all that kind of stuff, and it's not necessarily as easy a transition whereby anybody can puck the ball out. Anybody in hurling can save the ball. You don't necessarily, you see play continue with, you know, 10 outfield players in another sport. You can see it continue on with an injury outfield in hurling. Why can't you just swap in somebody?
Yeah, maybe. Look, and maybe they should have to do it, but that's if you're saying if it's that big an issue. Like, to be honest, I think that was more a moment in time in the first half than... It
probably wasn't why Limerick won the game.
That's what I feel. Yeah. I kind of feel like they would have sorted it out
Galway
anyway.
Can say that. Yeah, Limerick would have found a way to get things in order.
But a 6-point advantage could have been an 8 or a 9-point advantage by the break. You know?
Yeah, well, that's... Look, I don't know.
I don't think anyone...
I can understand if you're Galway, you're probably, like, annoyed about it, but, like...
You're probably not too aggrieved either, though, because it feels like Galway are well off that All-Ireland pace.
It feels Galway are further back than Clare are, for sure, after this weekend. Yeah.
Well, that second half performance, I mean, you know, I'm talking through all the little moments that I feel cost Clare.
12 or something
like that. Yeah, I'm talking about all those little moments that cost Clare. If you're Galway and you're worried about like individual moments in that game, then you've missed the bigger picture, because they were annihilated in the second half, and that's Limerick rising to a place where I don't think they've been yet this year. And it was Galway capitulating in the face of that. So they had a great game plan, and they executed brilliantly, and they were in control. Like I thought Galway were going to win the game when they went 6 up, and it wasn't just because of the scoreline, it was because of the way they were hurling. They had answers to everything, and then Limerick changed the questions, and Galway didn't know what to do.
It's hard to see where Galway go from here, because there was obviously so much excitement with Shefflin coming in, and their biggest win in those 2 years was against a poor Tipperary side in a really flat game. So it's hard to see where they go now. Like, they drew with Kilkenny in one of the worst Leinster Championship games, and then they lost the final to them. So their biggest win has been against that Tipperary team.
We've had a few texts in already, and messages, of course, if you're streaming us on the YouTube. Mick sounds like he needs the night off from Jason and Donelan.
Do you know, if I had any holiday days left, maybe.
There you go. Anonymous texter says, stop the whinging. Why didn't Tony Kelly play well? 4 question marks. Mikey Butler's pocket was full again.
Whinging, like, I mean, it's like, I'm talking about in this particular case from a Clare fan's point of view, and why it hurts so much. Like, if I'm a Kilkenny man, I'd be saying they absolutely deserved the win, and they won a lot of the individual battles. Mikey Butler, I would say, did. I thought Kelly played better than he did last year, and there was a lot of tactical issues that I would have question with as to where Tony Kelly was playing, but a huge amount of it was because Mikey Butler is a bloody brilliant man marker, and I was sitting in the Cusack stand right in the halfway line watching that a little bit, and he is sticky. Let's face it.
One Trick Pony on YouTube, and this will make steam blow out of a lot of ears, I'd imagine, this evening. Murphy's save is overrated. Murphy has let in more goals than Nicky Quaid. Clare management blew it again. Letting in goals.
First of all, 90% of hurling goals, the goalkeeper doesn't even have a chance for.
Yep.
Right? It's irrelevant. So it's all up. That's about setups and defence. It wasn't in any way overrated, because how many hurling saves are actually overrated? Arthur was pointing this out to me earlier, because basically the ball is struck at the general area. The positioning is what the save is, rather than the actual movement of the hurl. This was true bodies at full pace, hit on the volley when he wouldn't have been expecting a shot, and he went to the ball.
Yep.
It was an incredible save. I don't think I've ever seen a better one.
The gravity of the moment as well.
It is.
Adds to it, absolutely, yeah.
2 minutes into injury time, there's a minute to go.
It's the deciding factor in an All-Ireland semi-final,
if anybody else wants to get on the overrated bandwagon,
by the way, Peter Duggan, that was a brilliant bit of skill from him as well, because that's the only chance that they had of getting a goal in that melee, was just hitting the pass back to him first time, and what a connection, and we would have been talking about that goal for a long time, I think, as well, if Clare ended up winning in extra time or whatever it would have been.
Some breaking news via the World of GA, which is what that beep was, and my heart sank from it. I was like, oh my god, this is really tragic news, but actually no, it's just a managerial change. When Will O'Callaghan tweeted the message, Mikey Graham gone, I was like, oh god, that's very tragic. No, it's Mickey Graham, the Cavan manager, has decided to step away from the job.
Didn't know where you were going.
Exactly. After serious considerations, Mickey Graham decided to step away from his role as Cavan senior football manager. That has just broken in the last few minutes, but we will get to the rest of the news round now, which is brought to you with thanks to Gillette. Anne-Marie.
Men's top seed Carlos Alcaraz is out on centre court at Wimbledon. He's taking on Italian Matteo Berrettini. They're tied there at 1 set apiece. This is in the last 16. Elsewhere, Bulgarian Gregor Dimitrov and Holger Rune, the 6th seed, are also tied at 1 set apiece. Earlier on today, American Chris Eubanks booked his place in the quarter-finals. He beat Greek 5th seed Stefanos Tsitsipas 3-2 in what turned out to be an epic on court 2. 27-year-old Eubanks is now unbeaten in his last 9 matches and will face 3rd seed Daniil Medvedev of Russia up next. Meanwhile, defending champion Novak Djokovic beat Poland's Hubert Hurkacz in 4 sets. The 36-year-old Serbian hasn't lost now on centre court since 2013. In the women's draw then, 6th seed Ons Jabeur of Tunisia Sabalenka beat world number 9 Petra Kvitova in straight sets. Probably the performance of the day. 6-love, 6-3 the score there. She looked particularly impressive, and she'll face defending champion Elena Rybakina in the last 8. She progressed after her opponent Beatrice Haddad-Maia retired with an injury early on during their contest, and second seed Aryna Sabalenka will face American 25th seed Madison Keys up next. That's after a straight sets win over Ekaterina Alexandrova.
The Chris Eubanks story is a remarkable one, to see somebody coming so late essentially into the professional game, somebody who was a hitting partner for other more notable stars, and somebody who was a commentator for the tennis channel.
Yeah, he said the commentator doing the commentary helped him, he said. Yeah,
that's just remarkable stuff, and it's really worth exploring. And there's a brilliant clip doing the rounds today as well of him talking about how he'd liked, this is before all of this happened, how he'd like to be a Wimbledon quarter finalist and what all that means in comparison to the other slams, and how it would relate to other people talking about tennis. It's just great story. It's a fantastic, absolutely fantastic story.
I've such a instinct to correct you and say that his name is Chris Eubank, because of Chris Eubank being erroneously called Eubanks for about 10 years.
It's a stray S. It's always there's people who get the stray S's thrown in there. They're misguided plurals. But yeah, Chris Eubanks.
What was the name of the guy who was the band leader on Jay Leno's Tonight Show? Is he Chris Eubank as well?
Do you know what? Everybody's going, his name's Chris Eubanks. Like, was he related? I did a Google at the weekend to see, is Chris Eubanks related to Kevin Eubanks?
Kevin Eubanks.
Who is Jay Leno's band leader on The Tonight Show. The answer is no.
Unrelated.
To what extent everybody's related, and if you go back to 15th cousins, I'm sure they are, but regardless, let's recap yesterday's hurling as well, Anne-Marie.
This year's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final will be a repeat of last year's. Defending champions Limerick booked their place in the decider on Saturday night with a 9-point win over Galway. Then yesterday, Kilkenny beat Clare on a scoreline of 125-122 at Croke Park. Owen Cody with that goal for Derek Ling's side in the second half, before keeper Owen Murphy made what some people think anyways was an unbelievable save in the dying minutes to deny Clare a goal chance. Speaking after the game, Ling, who is of course in his first season in charge, was relieved to come out on the right side of this one.
It was very edgy towards the end there. I just thought we just did enough, I think, to get over the line. First half, I think we're pretty much in control of the game. Happy at half time, but look, Clare came out in the second half, set up a little bit differently, and asked more questions, obviously, I suppose, and we're just really happy the way we responded, because it looked like the momentum had swung towards Clare, and I just think our lads kind of settled it back down. Some of our key players came on, and I think got our shape back. I think we lost our shape maybe for a while there in the second half, but our work rate all through was outstanding, I thought, and that was ultimately maybe the difference in the end.
Clare trailed by 5 points at half-time, 15-10 before an impressive second half, but their wait for another All-Ireland final appearance will now go into an 11th year. Manager Brian Lohan felt that there wasn't really much more they could have done.
The second half went so quickly, I don't know, was there a particular point in it? I think they did what they do up here. They took their chances. They were very accurate, very efficient with the use of the ball. Got scores from all over the field, which is what they do. And we suffered because of that. And let's look to them now in the final.
There you go, Brian Lohan making up here and making reference to the Croke Park factor, because you mentioned it earlier on outside. It's like the experience that Kilkenny have of playing in Croke Park is vastly different to that for your average Clare player.
Yeah, and that's like, it's obviously the Leinster final stuff, but it's also it's just being there every year, you know what I mean? Whereas Clare until last year hadn't played there since the 2018 semi-final. Before that, I think it was the replay in 2013. So yeah, like I think Tony Kelly's only played there less than 10 times in his career, one thing Brian Lohan said there about the second half going by very quick, look, again, I don't want to be too biased about this or anything like that, but I thought 3 minutes injury time was ludicrous at the end and completely affected how injury time was played. Because Clare had the majority of the ball during that time and were obviously going for goals, and there was nothing to be said that they couldn't get 3 scores. They were 3 points down. But instead 3 minutes just made it very, very frantic. It was crazy. Like, I mean, like in like the 68th, 69th minute, there was a minute-long injury that it was a sideline for Kilkenny that took at least a minute to take. You're telling me there was only 2 minutes in the rest of the half. There was a lot of like slowing it down from Kilkenny. I understand that that's probably getting to me, and that's not really a factor for the referee. But I thought that even injuries alone and substitutions and everything like that, I thought 3 minutes was mad. As Arthur pointed out to me earlier, there was 4 minutes in the Galway Limerick game and nothing happened in that entire second half. It was the game was over. Like,
One Trick Pony again asks on YouTube, Lowen in or out for next year?
In, I would say, but you know, I think we should have a conversation about it over the course of the winter. Like, but well, like, I mean, you asked me where's the
scope for improvement?
Yeah. Like, the majority of that team are going to be still there. You've got an under 20 team, maybe one or two might come into it, that lost a very, very close Munster final. You know, it's obviously too young for the minor All-Ireland champions, but I think that there's at least a question there. But I get the impression that the players are very, very much behind him, and he has brought. Don't forget where Clare were when Lowen took over, and the county was in borderline civil war, and there was no funding, and everyone was trying to get the secretary of the county board out. There was no funding.
The centre of excellence.
There's been loads of fundraising and everything since. Everything is basically, everybody's together now, and a lot of that is down to him. So while you can question some tactics and stuff like that, I think if he wants to stay for another year, he probably deserves it. All right, yeah.
The semi-final draw was set for the Camogie Championship as well, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, Cork will face Galway after they beat Kilkenny in their quarter-final by a single point yesterday, and Tipperary will take on neighbours Waterford in the last four. So that means one of the non-big three will be in the final.
We'll be talking about this next story after 7:30 as well. A fantastic weekend, really trying circumstances for the under-20 rugby team.
They are preparing for a World Championship final on Friday. Richie Murphy's side beat host South Africa 31-12 in their semi-final yesterday. James Nicholson scored 2 of Ireland's 4 tries, with Sam Berman and the particularly impressive Brian Gleeson also going over the line. They'll take on France in the decider after they beat England last evening. Lee Carsley, as you mentioned at the top of the show, is set to hold talks with the English FA about his future as their under-21 manager. The former Republic of Ireland international guided England to the European Championships over the weekend. They beat Spain 1-0 in the final. Liverpool's Curtis Jones with the goal there. It's understood, though, that a number of clubs are interested in him.
Yeah, and he has that direct line, as you mentioned, to the England job that Southgate has proved can happen. I think we often do too much scoreboard analysis, says Liam on YouTube. Nothing between Clare and Kilkenny. Lowen will have every chance next year to go all the way. Hi, said David in Dublin 15. Any mention of the constant booing and jeering from the Clare fans, you Mick, for every free made by TJ Reid, obviously feeling hard done by. The ref was OTT, and it was the worst I've heard from opposition fans. Is that fair? I didn't come across on TV.
I remember there was one when Kilkenny had a goal chance that the referee played advantage for, and people didn't realise it was going to be an advantage, and I think John Conlon got injured in the melee that followed. There was a bit of booing for that, alright, as well, which I saw the replay, saw the foul, and was like, fair enough, you know. But I don't remember any more than that. Look, I could be wrong, you know, and I was up with the Cusick as well, so it'd be stuff happening up in the upper deck, I should say, so it'd be stuff happening lower down that you wouldn't be too aware of.
We've been chastised by Paul as well, saying you lads, Anne-Marie, you lads would want to rewatch that period of the game. Galway were still on top after the Quaid stoppage. Their goal chance to go 9 up came 4 minutes after it. That miss led to Limerick getting a point on the break, and that was the turning point.
I was thinking of it like it didn't. I remember him going down and thinking like, it wasn't that changed the game, you know what I mean? It was, even to be honest, even coming in at half time, like Limerick had a bit of a run together, but you didn't feel like they were back on top or anything like that. It was all the second half. They got it back to a point which was felt like a miracle, but it didn't feel like it was because Limerick had turned the screw. I think that came later, you know. And
another anonymous person, ask Mick, we're going to have a section called Ask Mick.
I feel like everybody's out to get me here. Like, what's the problem?
Did he think Dermot Ryan should have been sent off for the tackle on Richie Hogan?
Oh geez, I genuinely didn't even see this. This is the problem with me not watching, not rewatching the match. I didn't see any challenge on. Tell me about it. Was it bad? bit high.
Yeah.
Shoulder, yeah. It was pretty high.
Was it free in at the end?
It was towards the end, over under the Hogan.
Yeah, again, far side for me.
It was pretty bad.
Well, do you know what we'll
That's
hear?
not Arsene Wenger in it. I genuinely don't remember it.
All right, that'll do it for Newsround. Anne-Marie, thank you. We'll let you go back to your period of mourning, and to Mick as well. We'll hear from
you. Poor Mick.
Sorry.
You've had
I'll
a rough
be in
time
better form tomorrow.
I feel like Mick's way sadder than me.
In general. Just
See, you've had the extra day to get over it, but I think it is just a Mick thing, to be honest with you as well. Keep those texts coming, 53106 for 30 cents. You can tweet us as well at Off the Ball. It is cash machine time.
Your chance to win big.
News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
Since last Tuesday's winner, we've had 4 missed calls in a row. It means we have a big rollover tonight.